I learn something about myself every time that I get to interact with my dad. And recently I realized that I need a special shelf in my office, in my chiropractic office. It needs to be 1 foot by 1 foot by 3 foot. And Dad is good at building some kinds of furniture. So I called Dad and I said, hey, I need this special shelf. What do you think of building this? Even though he's 86 years old, he's still running power equipment and he agrees to do that. He calls me several months later to tell me that the shelf is done. And he says, I've never been a craftsman and I haven't improved with age. There's a number of faults on this thing. He was obviously trying to dampen my expectations about this shelf. I go out there and I look over it. I cannot see any imperfections. You see, if you're off even 1/8 of an inch on a piece of furniture, it's way off. I can't see it. And I come to realize, this is where I get my perfectionist tendencies. Dad's this perfectionist, does this thing. I took it home. My job was to stain and varnish this thing. And I stained it and I put on 9 coats of varnish. I had the time and I realized this thing was probably well built. So I took it back down to Dad and I said, you built this thing strong enough to be a tornado shelter. And I put on enough varnish to withstand a nuclear blast. This thing might be around for a while. I would like you to sign it. So he signed and dated the bottom of this shelf. I'm going to hand this on to my great-grandchildren someday. We tend to overbuild things. That's another tendency of ours. Dad is now 88 years old, and he sometimes gets to go to the hospital. He might have blood in his stools. He might have trouble breathing. He might have something like that. I called down there one day and he says, I had a disaster and I almost didn't recover. I said, what, did you fall and break something? He says, well, I didn't fall, but I dropped my brand new bottle of Jim Beam whiskey and it broke all over the garage floor. I get it, Dad. That is a disaster. Mr. Toastmaster.
Good job.